Do you think the fans are going to expect this one? Where are we right now?
We are at Rock Hill.
South Carolina?
Yeah. Hole 18, Winthrop Gold. I wanted to make sure that we had a sweet setting for this one, especially for the topic that we have. Because on Hole 18's basket, some of the most clutch performances have happened.
Craziest stuff I've ever seen.
And, that would bring us right into what this episode is all about. What is clutch? How do you be clutch? Clutch. In sports, it's the highest of the high. Like, if you're clutch, you're just the man. And if you're not clutch, you're pretty much the lowest of the low. And
or you're amongst the mortals.
Well, you know what I mean? Like,
you're amongst the mortals.
It's crazy how much connotation that word has to an athlete. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to 100% take the word clutch and I'm going to demote it. The first thing I'm going to do in this episode is I wanted to demote it for the fans, and then we'll start talking about it. So when people say that somebody's clutch, like who are the most clutch in our sport? Ricky Wysocki, Paul McBeth, right?
Right now,
Ken Climo, Barry Schultz, all these great champions. But right now, I'm guessing for the listener out there, those are the two, Ricky and Paul.
Yeah.
They've displayed this in front of thousands of people.
In front of cameras.
In crazy situations. So that's why I want to demote it, because these are the two most clutch players in the world, and so now I'm going to say that they're actually the two least clutch in the field, and here's why. Because they actually lose to each other more than we lose to them, right? So they're actually not clutch at all. If you want to have it at clutch as that high of a praise, right? Ricky loses to Paul all the time with the lead, and vice versa. It happens.
Paul did start losing to Ricky for a little bit.
Absolutely.
After all those years.
And so, because they are so good at their craft, they are actually also unclutch. We saw Ricky blow lead at Waco to Paul McBeth. So does
Clunked, what is it, 28-footer, or was it a 30-footer on 17?
Yeah.
Is that what he missed? That was inside the circle?
Yeah, but we also saw him, a couple of years ago hit an 80-footer to put the dagger on Masters Cup. So that's why I wanted to kind of demote that word, clutch. What is it? Because now we can kind of get into what that is and what it takes to be a clutch player. Because I feel like it's put on this pedestal. Okay?
It's like the best of the best.
Right. But that's all it is. It's, are you a really good player? Then you're probably clutch.
Well, Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, but it's not necessarily the same thing.
Sure. So you go into your piece about it.
I'm going to go real quick because I feel like I'm just now getting to the point where I'm finding my clutch factor. I'm performing under the pressure of the situation better than I used to.
Okay.
Not where I want to be.
Sure.
But here's what I'm going to say. Everyone listening to this podcast knows a player in their area that's a solid player. But the moment that player is challenged to a $100 round at their home course, that player turns into literally the best player of all time. Literally the best player of all time. And if you're listening to this and you are that guy from my area...
I love you.
Yeah. I love you. Hate you so much. I know how much trash you talk. But you know what's funny? As much as those players annoy me, I respect them so much. There are some players that are amateur level players that when it comes down to, okay, this round of disc golf matters. Maybe it's not a PDGA sanctioned event. Maybe there's not value there for them. But when it comes down to like mano-y-mano, like pride and like $50, some people just, there's something in their brain that pops on and they're like laser focused, clutch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I think it's the coolest thing ever. And I think like that in itself is a shining example that anyone listening to this, no matter what skill level you're at, you can do this at your local C tier. You can do this and hit the putt at your local doubles league or even your first big tournament that you play. There is a section of your brain that's ready to hit that big putt, to bomb that big drive in bounds, to park that par 3. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have perfect form and you have to have played 100 events. Right. You know?
And to kind of piggyback off your point, there's also the other guy who's so good.
Sick.
He is sick.
The best player of all time.
The best player ever. You play with him with nothing on the line, and he's just filleting 50-footers, 25-footers, no problem, 10 down average. He's sick. But then you're like, want to play for $5? And he
tanks.
Folds like a laundry. Yeah.
Folds like a laundry? Is folds like a laundry your new phrase?
Yeah. And so... So then again, so now we describe players as being clutch, right?
Yeah.
But I think what clutch is a moment. I think that's what we need to focus on.
Yeah.
Is that moment. Being clutch is a moment. Like you said, it's a switch that has to be turned on. And are you in control of your body and your thoughts for this moment? And some people are clutch in certain cases, for sure, for rounds. But I think that why I wanted to downgrade the word clutch is because I think when you coin somebody clutch, they think that everything about that person is that. But I think what clutch is, I don't think it's a person. I don't think it's anything. I think it's a moment. A moment of being clutch. Certain moments in your career, you're going to have putts for the win. You're going to have putts to beat your friends. What does it take to be clutch? In my opinion, there's a lot of things that go into, but the three main things, I always try to coin 3 things to have the viewer kind of take into mind. So the first thing with being clutch is you have to understand your bag, like we've talked about in previous podcasts. You have to understand that, because if you step up to a hole, let's say it's an island hole, you have to know your bag, know your shots. Right? Then you have to know your form. That's number 2. Form is a big time key, and that takes practice, field work. All these things, when we tell you guys, hey, go to the field, practice, that's for these moments.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the last one, which is the hardest thing to learn, is to quiet the mind. Quiet the mind and believe. And the only way you can become clutch, and that clutch is taught, is with those other 2. Is by practice, lots of training, because then you believe in yourself, and then when the moment comes, you don't have to worry. You've practiced all the practice you need to do, and then you can make that putt. Another thing is, if you miss, there plenty of people have missed putts for the win.
Exactly.
Like I said, Ricky missed one on 17 the other day. Does that make him unclutch? Absolutely not. One of the most clutch people I've ever met in my life, no matter what it is. If it was a rock toss from here to the other side of the wall, that guy's going to put it really close. That's not it. It's understanding. Practice. In my opinion, that's what it comes down to.
Well, I think it also comes down to the fact that their brain is so focused on performance. Like, we'll rewind to Ricky's big putt. It was at 18 at the golf course at De La Viega. Yep. Is that what it is? Yep. Water right behind it. You think it was an 80-footer? 60? 70? So what year was it? 2017? 16. Ricky Wysocki hits a giant putt. Was it a standing or did he jump it?
I don't even. He just made it, man.
Huge putt for the win at was it a national tour or pro tour that year?
It was a national tour.
It was a national, which is, national tours are some of the hardest events to cash at in the sport. Literally cash at.
To even get into.
Yeah, to literally sign up for.
Literally, yeah.
But hits an enormous putt in that moment, if you are questioning yourself in the least bit, and when it comes to questioning, go ahead. If you have a big interjection.
No, just to kind of put people in the mood, he was 60 to 70 feet, water right behind. Mm-hmm. Water right behind.
Instant loss.
Instant loss if he misses the basket, period. And it wasn't call him out. Go ahead.
No, well, here's the thing. Ricky, and obviously the person he was playing against, Paul, yourself, you've had many clutch moments. And then we look to other sports, Michael Jordan, all these different athletes. And actually, tonight, Zion Williamson, big layup over the 7'6" guy, gets the foul.
Sick.
Ridiculous. Their brains are focused on performance. Their brains are not focused on what happens to me when this bad thing happens. It's like my younger brother, who I think is one of the best putters I've ever seen, his silly mindset of, it's not a death putt if it goes in. That's a real thing.
I love that.
That's my favorite mindset ever. It's not a death putt if it goes in. And Ricky had that mindset when he hit the putt. Here's the thing. Their brains are not necessarily battling to get into this moment like, okay, I'm finally ready to hit this putt. I'm finally ready to bomb this drive when it matters most. I'm finally ready to throw the flex shot over hole 1 ledge stone and not go in the water. They've already come to terms with the fact that I don't care if something bad happens to me. Because it's not going to happen because I'm going to do this thing. If you have not seen the movie Free Solo with Alex Honnold, the world's #1 free climber, which is rock climbing with 0 ropes, I highly recommend you seeing it. And Paul, I recommend you seeing it as well. His sport, Alex Honnold's sport, free soloing, there's 0 room for failure ever. You fail and you die. That's it. You just die. So, his brain has a section called the amygdala, which is where your brain controls fear. And he had his brain scanned during this movie, which documents the most incredible athletic achievement I've ever seen, which is where he climbs El Capitan at Yosemite with 0 ropes in one day. They scanned his amygdala, and there was 0, it was almost non-existent.
He doesn't even have one.
His brain had no fear. And his whole thing was, well, I can't think of death. I can't think of failure because my failure is death. So in my sport, he even says, I hate climbing with ropes because climbing with ropes makes me lazy. When I free solo with no ropes, my brain automatically laser focuses, and I'm only focused on performance. I know it's an extreme case, but it was the most inspiring thing I've ever listened to. Because you take the scope of what he went through and what he goes through every single time he goes to whatever mountain. If you haven't followed him on Instagram yet, his Instagram is phenomenal. We look at our sport. If I missed his 30-footer, people are not going to be stoked on me.
Yeah.
What?
That guy misses his rock, he's dead. He's going to die.
He literally, and in the movie, his brain, here's how fixated someone who's obsessed with performance is. There's a scene in the Free Solo movie where it's the night before his climb, and he has a whole team of pro climbers with cameras about to follow him up this mountain. It's 3,000 something feet. No ropes. And it's literally a vertical wall. His brain is sitting there, and on camera, he says every single step and every single hand movement he makes. Turn the hand a quarter turn right, hook the thumb on this tiny rock in the middle. If he was a disc golfer, he'd be sick.
He'd be pretty good.
He'd be the best player of all time.
He'd be clutch.
Insanely clutch because it doesn't matter to him.
Yeah.
His only worry is performance.
Sure.
And that's what we need to have.
And so that actually brings in a great side to this whole topic is, so there are people who are clutch, and you're saying exactly, I feel like a great point is, the only way not to be clutch is to be scared.
Exactly.
Is to be scared of the moment and to be scared for what's about to happen. And I can definitely say in my career, there's been plenty of times where I was scared of the moment, terrified. I didn't know how to react because I'd never been there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'd never been there. You know, I know one that comes to mind was Portland Worlds. I led the whole tournament, and I had done it once before. I'd done it at Lemon Lake. And I remember it was a year after I changed my form, and I remember thinking of, like, this is going to be it, you know? And then I got in the moment, and I was scared. I was scared to win the tournament, and that was when Ricky and Paul pulled away in the final 9, and then they had the sickest, oh my gosh, talk about clutch. Paul Macbeth hit some of the sickest putts I've ever seen in my life, and they won in, like, or he won in, like, 6 holes or something. But then fast forward to this last year, I made the final 9 again. Well, the final 18. There's no final 9 anymore, but I made the finals this last year, and I think I was only 1 back going into the final round or something. And I remember not being afraid, and I put down a great performance for what I thought. You know, I struggled a little bit on the front 9, but I put it down a great performance on the back 9, and I just lost. And I remember after the round being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm okay." You know, I'm okay, yeah. The time before, I remember I wasn't okay for weeks and weeks after that. I wasn't, because I knew, you know, that I was afraid and that I got scared of that moment and I wasn't ready for it. And then this year, I was totally ready for it. I just got outplayed that round, you know? And fear is the biggest Achilles of an athlete.
Absolutely.
For sure. And so how do you get past that? And I think it goes back to just the fundamentals that we said in the beginning is the one thing that sucks, guys, is you have to be in that situation. And some people practice so hard and they get put in the time that once they get into that situation for the first time, they're able to come on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that happens all the time to where first-time winners have to win. And then there's other times where somebody's been there over and over and they just can't seem to, like, get over the hump. It doesn't necessarily mean that that person's not clutch or that the one person is. It just circumstances differ. But when it comes to the moment, you have to erase all the fear.
All the fear, and I think it comes from, like, I think a funny example for me is, like, and I don't know if she wants me to say this, but I'm gonna say it. Paige Pierce is, like, my favorite example of like someone who has, and maybe I don't know her as well as I thought I know her, but someone who seems to me like someone who has found her way of erasing fear or putting those moments into perspective in her life. Paige has won, 4 world championships, and she's like 27?
Yeah.
My age? Yep. I would love to have won 4 world championships by 27. I go to Nashville to stay with some friends as I'm passing through from Florida to Illinois. Paige is also there. And I thought in my brain, maybe of a world champion, that Paige has a strict schedule, right? Wake up at 7, work out, do whatever. And this is just the reality of the situation. Paige takes her van, drives it down by the river at this house in the country in Tennessee, wakes up at sunrise, doesn't go for a run or anything. She goes fishing. Paige goes fishing. Paige comes back up top to the house. Paige is making some YouTube videos. It's not like it's a bad thing, but I'm realizing that for her specific personality type, and maybe I'm making the wrong assumption, her hard work, if she puts in too much hard work, can almost create these expectations and blow the game out of proportion. So it's one of those things like she needs to put in just the right amount of work and also balance it with other things to where failing in that one moment in disc golf is not going to be the world to her. And she realizes that there's amazing other things out in this world. And so it's like, I look at so many players, and like we don't have to train like Rocky Balboa sometimes. We have to tame our own brains to find what works for us.
Yeah, and it's funny that a lot of it, this, getting into this word clutch, it's personality types.
Yeah.
There are certain people that who've never played disc golf before, and if they played disc golf, that guy would be clutch.
So clutch?
Because they're just personality types, and that's what I'm saying is, if there's those types of personalities that if you're going down... When I'm going down the stretch with Ricky or Paul, I have to play flawless, because I know what their personality type is.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're calm, and they're going to beat you. That's their personality in everything. Doesn't matter what it is.
They can be pro at anything.
Right. Yeah. And I also know, though, 100%, that they know they need to get me early. Because if I have a putt for the win,
you're gonna make it.
I'm gonna make it. And that's what I'm saying. There's personality types. There's also personality types where if they have a putt for the win, and I'm not gonna name any names, but they're gonna miss. You just know it. Yeah. Unfortunately, you just know. And in order to teach yourself how to be clutch is exactly what I'm saying. It depends on your personality. I know.
Absolutely
I know deep down in my heart that if I have a putt for the win, I'm going to make it. I've missed one ever for the win in my whole entire career. And I say that all the time because there's only one putt I've ever missed for the win. And it was in Indiana State Championships.
Which I won 2017. and Paul did not.
No. And I missed a putt for the win against Al Harmasillo, and he looked at me.
Lefty Al, shout-outs.
Shout-outs to Lefty Al, and he looked at me and he said, "Thank you." and he beat me on the next hole, and I'll never forget it because I've missed putts for the tie. But when I had a putt inside the circle or just outside for the win, I've made it every time except for against Lefty Al. And that's what I'm saying is I know that about myself because I've done it. And that's not me pumping myself up, but that's something that I can grab onto as something 100% to be like, I know that's me. Yeah. And that's why I believe in my heart, for me as a player, it's so hard for me to get into position at big tournaments because I know once I get there, it's mine. And that's my Achilles,
So it's funny to me. And it's a really interesting thing for anyone listening who is obsessed with disc golf. They think about disc golf 24/7. They wake up and there's like 3 buzzes and a zone under their pillow. There's a Raptor. There is a Bearhart Tour Series zone,
real nice,
underneath their
real
bed,
nice and stable.
Maybe in their stockings for Christmas. They're obsessed with disc golf. They love disc golf. It's so funny we have these people that love our game so much. But a lot of our top players, and again, I go back to Paige Pierce because I had this conversation with her. I go back to you because I had this conversation with you. I know you mentioned the same thing about Paul and Ricky and other players. The top players in our sport, folks, would be pro at other things as well. They don't care that it's disc golf. They just like to compete, and they like to compete to win. It does not matter if Ricky is playing ping pong, or he's playing disc golf, or he's playing basketball. He wants to win. He wants to play to win. He's not afraid of losing. And I'm not saying he's just an amazing multi-sport athlete, but it's one of those things where
nobody is.
The best players in our sport maybe are not just disc golf nerds. They're athletes that just like to win. So when it comes to clutch factor, if you really truly want to be clutch, you have to learn and almost retrain your brain to love winning more so than you love throwing a frisbee. And that's hard for me. That's really hard for me because in Ultimate, when I played Ultimate in college, I didn't care about winning. I wanted to throw scoobers 40 yards. I wanted to throw hucks into 20-mile-an-hour headwinds and score goals. I didn't care about winning. When we played against some of these Big Ten schools in Ultimate, and they smoked us, I was just sitting there like, well, dang, I really wish I just played catch. I really, like, this is stupid. So for me, naturally, Frisbee is my favorite thing in the entire world. And there's a lot of disc golfers that I've met who are like, Frisbee is my favorite thing ever. Great, amazing, but it's one of these funny things. You could potentially contradict yourself. You go to a tournament with the whole most fun wins mindset that a lot of people have, which is great. But when you don't win, there's your explanation. The most fun doesn't win. The player with the lowest score wins. And a lot of times playing for the lowest score is not the most fun.
It's really not.
It's really not.
No.
Paul.
It's exhausting.
Paul, it's exhausting. And I'll tell you, it's a fun perspective. My best finish ever. I just had it. I got 8th place at the Memorial. I was mentally drained for the first time in my entire career. Ever. My caddy was there. Me and him were talking game plan every single hole, every single shot. I finished the tournament and I was bored, tired, and I did not want to make another single decision for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You just won an A tier, and you looked gassed. He didn't even recognize that I was behind the basket. He walked away.
I wanted to get by myself so that I could take in the moment and just be like,
yeah,
because you're right, it's exhausting, and
you're playing to win. You're not necessarily playing to play Frisbee. You're not playing Frisbee at that point.
And it's not fun. Being under pressure is the least fun I'll ever have in my life. Mm-hmm. But it's competition, and I love coming out
That's exactly
on the other side because I want to put myself through that. It sounds crazy, but when I think about it, and I think about the pressure, even the pressure of the moment that I just had this weekend, and I think about what I went through, it isn't fun to me. That's not a fun thing.
Your blood pressure goes up.
It's not. I have to be so in tune with myself and making sure that all these different things are going right and everything. So, to the people who get a joy out of that, I don't know who you are, but it's my favorite thing. It's my absolute favorite. Yeah. Afterwards, being done and then going by myself and sitting down and then, having a moment with myself and being like, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it.
That's
empowering.
Yeah.
And exactly.
That's the competitor's mindset.
Right.
I look at Paul's PDGA stats, and please, anyone listening, Paul Uli Bearhart, what's your PDGA number?
27171.
Look up his PDGA stats. This kid, actually, you can also look up him or Emerson Keith is another one. And I can guarantee you, without even ever talking to him about this, that competition is his obsession. They've both played 40 to 70 events a year. Paul did it for about how many years in a row? 4 or 5 years? 40 events a year?
I've played 40 events, probably an average of 40 events for 10 years.
That's absurd to most people. But to him, it was just what he wanted to do.
It's what I love.
It's not even what he wanted to do, it's what he loved. And that's the thing. Competition is what he loved, and if you feel that, don't be afraid of it. If you want to win and you want to be a champion and you want to get to that next level, immerse yourself in those situations. Make sure you're comfortable in those situations. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do that, if you don't put yourself in those situations, you'll never get there.
Yep.
You'll never have the situation where you get to choke. You'll never get to be AJ Risley, who started touring when he was 970 rated and then got to be on the lead card of Ledgestone and choked. And people were giving him garbage for it. Are you kidding me? The dude got his chance to choke.
Yeah.
He got his chance to shred, and have one bad hole at the biggest paying tournament of the year.
And guess what's going to happen the next time
Next time he gets there, he's not going to have that.
It's not going to happen. It's just impossible.
It's incredible.
Because of the path that he's taken to get there, the hard work that he puts in. It's important to have failure. It's important to go through those things.
Extremely important. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap it up at hole 18, Winthrop Gold.
I feel like there's a lot of ghosts around here.
I'm kind of scared.
I saw Will Shoestrick maybe come by. Maybe
we're going to go.
Ken Climo, Barry Schultz.
I saw a Barry Schultz silhouette in the distance.
It was weird.
On hole 1's
was
tee
hopping by. It was crazy.
Yep.
But we're winding down, guys. We're winding
down today at hole 18, Winthrop Gold.
Who's going to be clutch in this year?
Well, as Paul's trophy says after this weekend, he is the 2019 Golf Champion of the Year.
That's what my trophy says.
So hopefully it's him for the rest of the year. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And again, find us on Patreon, www.patreon.com/thebuzz with 3 Z's. And please give us some support. We'll give you some extra content in return.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is awesome. And I think just the word clutch on the title for this is going to get a lot of listens. So
I think so.
All right, guys.
See ya.